Financial forgiveness. Healing your past money traumas to welcome millionaire abundance. Introduction. The wound beneath the wallet. Before we talk about investment strategies, debt repayment plans, or the mechanics of building $1 million net worth, we need to talk about something that most financial educators will never address. We need to talk about the wound. Not the wound from the bad investment you made at 32. Not the wound from the credit card that spiraled out of control after the divorce. Those wounds matter, and we will get to them. But underneath every financial mistake, underneath every pattern of self-sabotage with money, underneath every woman who earns well but cannot seem to keep it, underneath every woman who is terrified of success because she does not know what she would do with it, underneath all of it, there is an older wound, a childhood wound, a wound that was carved before you ever held a credit card or signed a lease. And that wound has been running your financial life ever since. Welcome. I am so glad you are here, because the fact that you chose this audiobook means something. It means you are ready, not just to learn new financial tactics, though we will explore those, but to do something far more profound, to heal, to forgive, and to step into the financial life that was always meant for you. This audiobook is called Financial Forgiveness, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a forgiveness practice, a healing process, a systematic, grounded, and deeply feminine journey. From the scarcity wounds of your past to the millionaire abundance of your future, we are going to do this together. We are going to go into the rooms of your financial history that you have kept locked, sometimes for decades. We are going to turn on the lights, look honestly at what is there, and then do the one thing that changes everything. We are going to forgive it all, the failures, the shame, the choices made in fear, the patterns inherited from people who were doing their best with what they knew. And from that place of radical, unshakable forgiveness, we are going to rebuild, not with more discipline alone, though discipline will be part of it. Not with more hustle alone, though strategic action will be essential. Who are going to rebuild from the inside out, from a place of worthiness, of clarity, and of what I call disciplined feminine grace. So take a breath, settle in, and let us begin. Chapter 1. The Money Story. You did know you were living. Every woman has a money story. Most of us did not write it consciously. It was written for us by the households we grew up in, by the things we watched and overheard as children, by the cultural messages that surrounded us before we had the cognitive capacity to question them. Your money story is the collection of beliefs, feelings, and unconscious rules that govern how you relate to money. It determines whether you feel safe earning more than your parents did. It determines whether you feel guilty spending on yourself. It determines whether a financial setback sends you into panic or into problem-solving mode. It determines whether you secretly believe that wealth is something that happens to other women, not you. And here is the critical insight. Your money story is not the truth. It is a story, a narrative constructed from limited information gathered by a child who was trying to make sense of a complex world. That child did the best she could. But her conclusions, however logical they felt at the time, are not permanent. They are not fixed. They can be rewritten. Let me illustrate this with a woman I will call Diane. Diane grew up in a household where money was a source of constant tension. Her parents argued about bills. The word expensive was always spoken with a kind of apologetic wince. She heard phrases like "we cannot afford that" so often that the sentence became embedded in her nervous system like a reflex. By the time Diane was 7 years old, she had made an unconscious decision. Money causes pain, and therefore, wanting more money means wanting more pain. Diane grew into a highly intelligent, deeply talented woman. She built a successful consulting practice. Her skills were exceptional, and yet, Every time her income was about to cross a certain threshold, something would happen. She would undercharge a client. She would take on a project that drained her resources. She would make an impulsive purchase that depleted her savings right when they were starting to feel substantial. Chapter 1 continued. Written your money story. Diane was not lazy. She was not irresponsible. She was not, as some financial gurus might suggest, simply lacking discipline. She was living out the conclusion her 7-year-old self had made about money, with perfect consistency and perfect unconscious precision. This is what childhood money conditioning does. It creates a set point, an invisible upper limit, to how much financial well-being we will allow ourselves to have before our nervous system starts to signal danger. And when we approach that limit, we self-correct, not consciously. That is the insidious part. We self-correct through behaviors that feel entirely reasonable in the moment. A generous gesture here, a treat yourself impulse there, a decision to delay an important investment just one more month. Understanding this is the first step toward financial forgiveness, because here is what I want you to hear very clearly. Your financial patterns are not character flaws. They are survival strategies that were developed by a younger version of you in a context that no longer exists to manage circumstances that are long gone. And like all survival strategies, they served a purpose. They helped that younger version of you feel safe, feel normal, feel connected to her family and community. But you are no longer that child, and the context of your life has changed. And so it is time, with compassion, not criticism, to update the strategy. Chapter 2 Mapping our childhood money triggers. Let us now do something together that takes real courage. We are going to map your childhood money triggers. A money trigger is any situation, phrase, number, sensation, or emotional climate that activates a fear response in your nervous system in the context of money. When you see your bank balance drop below a certain number and your chest tightens, that is a trigger. When someone asks you how much you charge and you feel a flush of shame or embarrassment, that is a trigger. When a financial opportunity appears and you feel an inexplicable urge to talk yourself out of it, that is a trigger. Triggers are not rational. That is their defining characteristic. They do not respond to logic. You can know, intellectually, that your business is doing well and still feel a physical sense of dread when the quarterly tax bill arrives. You can understand, analytically, that investing in your own education is a sound financial decision and still feel a paralyzing guilt when you spend money on yourself. This is because triggers live in the body, not in the mind. They are encoded in the nervous system through repetition and emotional intensity during our formative years. And to heal them, we have to meet them where they live, in the body, in the breath, in the felt sense of our own experience. So let us map your triggers. As you listen, I want you to bring to mind the financial experiences of your childhood. You do not need to force any memories. Simply let them arise, gently, like objects floating to the surface of still water. What was the emotional climate around money in your household? Was it tense? Was it secretive? Was money discussed openly or hidden behind closed doors? When bills arrived, what was the feeling in the house? When the holidays came and gifts were given, or could not be given, what was the emotional texture of that experience? Did you overhear arguments about money? Did you watch a parent work themselves to exhaustion to provide? Did you see a parent give money away generously, as if abundance was always available? Or did you see a parent hoard money fearfully, as if disaster was always one bad day away? Chapter 2 continued. The 5 money wounds. Now I want to name 5 specific wounds that I see most commonly in the women I work with. These are not diagnoses. They are patterns, recognizable constellations of belief and behavior that cluster together in predictable ways. As I describe each one, notice which resonates most deeply. Notice where your body responds. That recognition is data. The first wound is the scarcity wound. This is the wound of not enough. Women carrying this wound grew up in environments where there was never quite enough. Enough money, enough security, enough certainty about the future. The scarcity wound produces a specific kind of chronic financial anxiety, a constant background hum of worry that no amount of money fully quiets. Women with this wound often save obsessively but feel no safer, or they spend impulsively because on some level they do not believe any money they save will still be there tomorrow. The scarcity wound says, abundance is temporary. Do not trust it. Hold on tight or spend it fast, because it never lasts. The second wound is the shame wound. This is the wound of not worthy. Women carrying this wound received messages, explicit or implicit, that wanting money was greedy, that having nice things was showing off, or that financial struggle was somehow noble, while financial success was suspect. The shame wound produces a specific kind of self-sabotage. Women with this wound will unconsciously deflect financial success, undercharging, over-delivering, deflecting compliments about their work, making themselves financially small so as not to trigger judgment in others or in themselves. The shame wound says, you do not deserve more than this. Who do you think you are? The third wound is the chaos wound. This is the wound of unpredictability. Women carrying this wound grew up in environments where the financial landscape shifted constantly and without warning. One month there was plenty, the next there was nothing. One parent was generous, another was withholding. The rules kept changing. The chaos wound produces the deep difficulty with financial planning. Why plan? It all changes anyway. Women with this wound often experience financial paralysis, an inability to make decisions because no decision feels safe when the ground keeps moving beneath your feet. The fourth wound is the sacrifice wound. This is the wound of watching someone, usually a mother, give everything financially and receive nothing in return. Women carrying this wound learned that women are supposed to sacrifice, that putting yourself first financially is selfish, that taking care of yourself is something you do only after everyone else has been taken care of. The sacrifice wound produces a particular pattern of financial self-neglect. These women take excellent care of others financially, while leaving themselves financially depleted. The fifth wound, it's a power wound. This is the wound of watching money used as control. Women carrying this wound grew up in households where financial power was wielded to dominate, to withhold love, to punish, or to trap. The power wound produces a complicated relationship of financial authority. Some women with this wound recoil from financial power entirely. They want no part of money because money means corruption. Others swing in the opposite direction, accumulating financial power as a shield, building walls of wealth to ensure no one can ever control them again. Chapter 3. The Practice of Financial Forgiveness. We have now named the wounds. We have mapped the triggers. We have identified the childhood conclusions that have been running your financial life from behind the curtain. And now we arrive at the most essential practice in this entire audiobook. Financial forgiveness. I want to be precise about what forgiveness means in this context, because it is often misunderstood. Financial forgiveness does not mean pretending the past did not happen. It does not mean excusing harmful behavior, whether your own or someone else's. It does not mean bypassing the very real consequences of financial mistakes. And it absolutely does not mean toxic positivity. The spiritually bypassing insistence that everything was fine, and you are fine, and it is all fine. Financial forgiveness means something far more courageous and far more precise. It means releasing the emotional charge from the past, so that it no longer has the power to govern your present. It means unhooking your identity from your financial history. It means recognizing that your past financial choices do not define who you are. They reflect who you were at a particular moment in time, with a particular set of tools, beliefs, and circumstances. And then it means taking that recognition and using it as the foundation for a different future. This is not a quick process. It is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a daily, deliberate act of returning to the truth of your own worthiness and releasing the grip of the past. Let me walk you through the 3 layers of financial forgiveness that we will work through together. The first layer is forgiving others. This means the people who shaped your early financial reality, your parents or caregivers, the family system you were born into, the culture and community that transmitted its beliefs about money through you. These people were not perfect. Some of them caused real harm, financial, emotional, psychological harm that had lasting consequences. And the invitation here is not to pretend otherwise. It is to recognize that they, too, were operating from their own wounds, their own conditioning, their own unexamined money stories. They gave what they had, and what they had was limited. This does not erase accountability, but it opens a space, a genuine, breathing space, where you no longer need to carry their story as if it is your own, where you can say, that was their relationship with money, and this is mine, separate, sovereign, my own to right. The second layer is forgiving yourself. This is often the hardest one, because the financial mistakes we have made as adults, the debts we have accumulated, the opportunities we missed, the years we spent in financial patterns that kept us small, these feel like failures, and failure, for many women, carries a particular weight of shame that goes very deep. Here is what I want you to hear, as clearly and as deeply as you are able to receive it. You were doing your best, with the awareness you had at the time, with the wounds that were active, with the beliefs that were running, with the circumstances that were present. You're doing your best, and your best, in those moments, included the choices that you now regret. That does not make those choices good. It makes them human. It makes them the inevitable expression of an unhealed wound, operating in an unexamined pattern. Chapter 3 continued, and Chapter 4, from forgiveness to financial action. The third layer of financial forgiveness is perhaps the most subtle and the most liberating. It is forgiving money itself. Many of us have developed a complicated, often hostile relationship with money as an entity. We blame it for our suffering. We resent it for its absence. We fear it for the power it has held over our lives. And underneath all of that blame and resentment and fear is a grief, a genuine grief for what we did not have, for what we lost, for what we were denied. That grief is real, and it deserves to be honored. But it does not deserve to become a permanent posture toward money itself, because money, in its essence, is neutral. It is energy. It is a tool. It is a resource that can be used with wisdom and grace, or with fear and compulsion. And when we carry our grief and our resentment into our current relationship with money, we make it harder for money to flow toward us. We signal, at the level of our nervous system, that money equals pain, and our system, wisely, tries to protect us from that pain. Forgiving money means releasing that grief. It means allowing yourself to have a new relationship with money, a relationship built not on the history of what money has meant in your life, but on the possibilities of what money can be in your future, a relationship of dignity and respect, of responsibility and joy, of stewardship and abundance. Chapter 4, Bridging the Gap from Psychological Healing to Tactical Wealth Building. We've done profound work together in the first 3 chapters. We have mapped the wounds. We have understood the patterns. We have begun the practice of forgiveness. And now it is time to build the bridge between psychological healing and practical financial empowerment, because healing without action is incomplete, and action without healing is unsustainable. The women who achieve lasting, meaningful wealth, the women who build the high net worth lives they were always capable of, are the women who do both simultaneously. They heal the inner landscape while they build the outer structure. Let us talk about that outer structure. Specifically, let us talk about debt. Debt is one of the most shame-laden words in the financial vocabulary of women. It sits in our bodies like a stone. And for many women, the shame of carrying debt is more debilitating than the debt itself. The shame stops us from looking at the numbers. It stops us from having honest conversations with financial advisors. It stops us from making the calls we need to make and taking the steps we need to take. Because to take those steps, we would have to look at the debt squarely. And looking at it squarely would mean feeling the shame, and the shame feels unbearable. Here is what I want to offer you. Debt is a data point. It is information. It is a set of numbers that reflects a set of choices that were made in a particular context, by a particular version of you, with a particular level of awareness. It does not define your character. It does not determine your future. It is data, and data can be analyzed, addressed, and restructured. The first step in tactical debt management, the step that precedes all spreadsheets and repayment strategies, is to look at the debt without the shame, to approach it with the same clarity and dispassion you would bring to any other problem-solving exercise, to say, here are the numbers, here is the situation, and here is what I am going to do about it. This is what I call the financial clarity practice. You sit down with a cup of tea in the quiet space, and you write out every debt to carry, not to punish yourself, not to wallow in regret, but to see it clearly, to bring it out of the dark corner of your mind, where it has been lurking, and into the light of your conscious attention, because what we can see, we can address, and what we cannot see has power over us. Chapter 4 is continued. The Debt Clarity Framework and Repayment Strategy. Once you have your full financial picture in front of you, all debts listed, with their balances, interest rates, and minimum payments, we can build a repayment strategy, and I want to offer you two frameworks, both of which are psychologically sound as well as financially effective. The first is the avalanche method. With the avalanche method, you make minimum payments on all debts and direct any additional funds toward the debt with the highest interest rate. When that debt is cleared, you roll that payment into the next highest interest rate debt, and so on. Mathematically, this is the most efficient approach. You will pay less interest overall and become debt-free faster. The second is the snowball method. With the snowball method, you make minimum payments on all debts and direct any additional funds toward the debt with the smallest balance. When that debt is cleared, you roll that payment into the next smallest balance. Mathematically, this is slightly less efficient than the avalanche, but psychologically, it is extraordinarily powerful, because every time you clear a debt, regardless of how small, your nervous system registers a win, a genuine, felt experience of progress. And that felt experience of progress is motivating in a way that pure mathematics is not. For many women healing from financial shame, I recommend starting with the snowball method, not because it is mathematically optimal, but because your first priority right now is building your relationship with your own financial competence, and clearing small debts quickly gives you real evidence that you can do this, that you are doing this, that the pattern can change. As you build momentum, as you feel the weight of debt beginning to lift, You can shift to the avalanche method to maximize your efficiency, but the psychological foundation needs to come first. Chapter 5: Building Your New Wealth Identity. Here we are at the chapter that truly changes everything, because the tactical work we have just described, the debt clarity, the repayment strategy, the savings infrastructure, all of that is essential, and none of it will hold if it is not anchored in a new identity. An identity is not just a set of beliefs, it is a felt sense of who you are, a deep, embodied knowing that shapes how you move through the world, how you present yourself in financial conversations, how you make decisions under pressure, and how you interpret financial events when they happen. The old identity, the one shaped by the wounds we have named, has a specific texture. It says things like, I am someone who struggles with money. I am someone who earns well, but cannot seem to keep it. I am someone who does not understand investing. I am someone who always ends up back at zero. This identity is not a fixed truth. It is a story. And today, we begin to write a new one. The new wealth identity is built on 3 pillars. The first pillar is worthiness. Worthiness is the unshakable knowledge that you deserve to have more, not more than others, not at anyone's expense, but simply more. More security, more freedom, more resources to invest in the things that matter to you, to fund the causes you believe in, to leave a legacy that outlasts you. Worthiness is not arrogance. It is a fundamental recognition of your own value as a human being, as a contributor, as a steward of resources. The second pillar is competence. Competence is the growing evidence-based belief in your own financial capability. This is built not through affirmations alone, but through action. Every time you sit down with your financial numbers, do not look away. Every time you make a debt payment and record it with satisfaction. Every time you research an investment and understand it. Every time you have a difficult financial conversation with clarity and composure, you are building your competence, and your identity is updating to reflect it. Chapter 5 continued. The third pillar. And Chapter 6. The third pillar of your new wealth identity is vision. Vision is the clear, detailed, emotionally alive picture of the financial life you are building. Not a vague wish, not a number on a page, but a living image. You can see it, feel it, smell it, the morning you wake up with no debt. The account balance that reflects 3 months of living expenses held securely. The first investment portfolio statement that shows compound growth. The conversation with your children where you talk openly about money and model what a healthy relationship with wealth looks like. Vision is not fantasy. It is a navigational tool. It gives your brain a destination to move toward. It gives your decision-making a filter. Does this choice move me toward the life I am building, or away from it? And it keeps you anchored through the inevitable moments of difficulty, because the journey to financial freedom is not smooth. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when the old wounds flare. There will be months when the numbers do not move the way you hoped. And in those moments, your vision is the anchor that keeps you from drifting back into the old patterns. Chapter 6. Discipline, Feminine Grace. Stewardship at the high net worth level. We are approaching the summit of our journey together, and I want to introduce a concept that I believe is essential for the woman who is stepping into high net worth territory for the first time. I call it disciplined feminine grace. This is not a contradiction in terms. It is a synthesis, and it is, in my experience, the hallmark of the most powerful and most admirable women in the world of wealth. Discipline is the non-negotiable. It is the commitment to the habits, the strategies, the decisions, and the practices that build wealth over time, regardless of how you feel on any given day. It is paying yourself first every month. Without exception, it is reviewing your investment portfolio with regular diligence. It is maintaining a spending plan that reflects your actual values rather than your emotional impulses. It is saying no to the things that look good but do not serve your mission. Discipline is not punishment, it is respect. It is the way you honor your future self. Grace is a quality that makes the discipline sustainable. It is the compassion you bring to yourself when you stumble. It is the elegance with which you hold success without either crowing about it or minimizing it. It is the warmth you extend to others in their financial struggles. Knowing that every wound you have healed in yourself increases your capacity to understand and support others. Grace is not weakness. It is a form of strength so refined that it looks effortless. And feminine is not a synonym for soft or accommodating or secondary. Feminine, in this context, means rooted in the full spectrum of your humanity. It means bringing your intuition to the table alongside your analytics. It means honoring the relational dimensions of wealth, the impact of your financial decisions on your community, your family, your world. It means building wealth in a way that is congruent with your deepest values, not in spite of them. The high net worth woman who embodies disciplined feminine grace is a formidable presence. She does not need to be loud. She does not need to dominate. She enters the room with the quiet authority of someone who knows exactly what she is worth and has done the work to be here. Chapter 7. The Daily Practices of the High Net Worth Woman. Now let us talk about what a life rebuilds on financial forgiveness actually looks like day to day, because the transformation we have been discussing is not only one-time breakthrough, it is a new way of living, a new set of daily practices that, over time, compound into a completely different financial reality. The first daily practice is what I call the morning money moment. This is a brief, it can be as short as 5 minutes, daily practice of financial awareness. You open your banking app, you look at your balances, you note any transactions. You are not trying to solve any problems. You are simply maintaining connection, maintaining awareness, refusing to live in financial avoidance. For women who have been living in financial shame and avoidance, this practice can feel almost unbearably uncomfortable at first. The impulse to look away is strong, and that impulse is your wound speaking. Every day that you override it, every day that you look, you are building new neural pathways. You are training your nervous system to associate financial awareness with safety rather than threat. And over time, the discomfort diminishes, and the awareness becomes a form of power. The second daily practice is the gratitude inventory. Once a week, perhaps on Sunday evening, or whatever day feels most reflective for you, you take inventory of what is already abundant in your life, not just financially, but in every dimension. The warmth of your home, the food in your refrigerator, the relationships that sustain you, the skills and capacities you have developed, the small and large ways that life has been generous with you. This is not a bypass of financial challenges. You are allowed to acknowledge the challenges while also acknowledging the abundance. Both are true simultaneously, and the regular practice of naming abundance trains your attention, and therefore your energy, toward what is already present and growing, rather than fixating only on what is absent. The third daily practice is what I call the investment hour. Once a week, you set aside one uninterrupted hour dedicated to your financial education and your investment decisions. You read, you research, you review your portfolio, you study one concept that previously felt inaccessible. You may meet with a financial advisor or explore a new platform. The investment hour is your commitment to becoming someone who understands wealth, not as a passive recipient, but as an active, informed steward. The fourth daily practice is the forgiveness reset. This one may be the most important. Whenever you notice an old pattern activating, an impulse to spend impulsively, a resistance to looking at your numbers, a moment of shame about a past financial choice, you pause, you breathe, and you consciously invoke the forgiveness we have been practicing throughout this audiobook. You say to yourself, silently or aloud, I see this pattern. I understand where it comes from. I am not this pattern. I choose something different. And then you choose. It is not about being perfect. You will not be perfect. No one is. There will be days when the old patterns win. And on those days, the forgiveness reset is not punitive. It is gentle. It is, I see what happened. I understand. I forgive myself. And tomorrow I choose again. Chapter 8. The Millionaire Mindset. What changes when you step into abundance? There is a particular moment in the financial healing journey that I want to prepare you for, because it is a moment that catches many women completely off guard. It is the moment when the healing starts to work, when the debt starts to decrease, when the savings start to grow, when the investments start to compound, when the financial patterns that had plagued you for years start to shift, when you begin to catch glimpses, real, tangible glimpses, of the abundant financial life on the other side. This moment is extraordinary, and it is also, for many women, terrifying, because stepping into abundance requires you to become someone new, and becoming someone new, even when it is deeply desired, involves loss. The loss of the familiar, the loss of the identity, however painful, that you have held for so long, the loss of the excuses, and I say this without judgment, that financial struggle provided, the loss of the community formed around shared financial difficulty, the loss of the person you used to be. I want to name this transition explicitly, because if you are not prepared for it, it can feel like a sign that something is wrong. It is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is right. It is the growing pains of genuine transformation. Here is how the millionaire mindset differs from the scarcity mindset in practice. The scarcity mindset says, there is not enough. The millionaire mindset says, there is always enough when I am in alignment with how I create, manage, and receive value. The scarcity mindset says, I need to hold on tightly or it will all disappear. The millionaire mindset says, money flows to me because I am a trustworthy steward of it. The scarcity mindset says, success is for other people, people with different backgrounds, different families, different luck. The millionaire mindset says, wealth is a skill set, and I am building that skill set every day. The scarcity mindset says, if I show how much I have, people will judge me or ask me for things, or take it away. The millionaire mindset says, my abundance does not diminish anyone else. My rising does not require anyone else's falling. The scarcity mindset lives in the past and the future simultaneously. It is haunted by past losses and terrified of future ones. The millionaire mindset is anchored in the present, in the quality of today's decisions, in the integrity of today's choices, in the commitment to the practices that are building something real one day at a time. Now, I want to be honest with you about something. The millionaire mindset does not arrive fully formed the day you decide to adopt it. It is cultivated. It is grown, slowly, through the accumulation of choices and experiences that reinforce a new way of seeing the world. There will be days when the scarcity voice is loud, when the old wounds flare, when you feel not like the powerful, disciplined, grace-filled woman you are becoming, but like the frightened child you once were. On those days, you do not need to perform the millionaire mindset. You need to care for the frightened child. You need to bring her the same compassion and forgiveness that we have practiced together throughout this audiobook. And then you need to take one small, clear, disciplined action in the direction of your vision. Chapter 9. Your Financial Forgiveness Declaration and Closing Meditation. We are almost at the end of our journey together, and I want to close with something deeply personal, deeply powerful, and deeply yours. A financial forgiveness declaration is a written statement, your statement, of the forgiveness you are choosing, the identity you are claiming, and the financial life you are committing to build. It is not a goal list. It is not a set of targets. It is a declaration of who you are becoming, a document you can return to when the old patterns flare, a touchstone for your commitment. I am going to read you the framework for your declaration, and as I speak, I invite you to hear these words as if they are being spoken directly to the truest, most healed, most powerful version of yourself, the version you are becoming. I forgive myself for every financial mistake I have ever made. I understand that those mistakes were made by a version of me who was doing her best with what she knew and what she had. I release the shame. I release the regret. I release the story that those mistakes define who I am. I forgive the people and circumstances that shaped my earliest relationship with money. I understand that they were operating from their own wounds, their own conditioning, their own limited understanding. I release resentment. I release blame. I take what was useful from what I learned, and I leave behind what was harmful. I forgive money itself for the ways it has felt scarce, elusive, or dangerous in my life. I understand that money is neutral, that it carries whatever meaning I assign to it, and I am now assigning it new meaning. Money is a tool of freedom. Money is a resource of possibility. Money is energy that flows to me in direct proportion to the value I create and the openness with which I receive. I declare that I am worthy of financial abundance, not because I have earned it through suffering or proven it through perfect choices, but because worthiness is inherent, because I am a human being with gifts to offer and a life to live fully. I declare that I am becoming a skilled, disciplined, graceful steward of wealth. I commit to the daily practices that build financial clarity. I commit to the regular review of my numbers. I commit to the investment in my own financial education. I commit to asking for help when I need it, and to receiving support with humility and gratitude. I declare that my relationship with money is healing every day, in every small, disciplined choice, in every moment of awareness where I could have looked away and chose to stay present. I am healing, and the healing is real, and the healing is mine. Closing. You are the woman on the other side of this story. There is a woman on the other side of the journey we have taken together. She is you, a version of you that is 6 months, or a year, or 5 years further down the road. She has done the work. She has done the inner healing and the outer building. She carries no debt, or she carries debt she is handling with confidence and a clear plan. She knows her numbers. She invests with intention. She speaks about money with ease and authority. She gives generously from a place of genuine abundance, rather than performed generosity masking scarcity. She is free. That woman is not a fantasy. She is not someone else. She is the inevitable destination of the journey you have already begun by choosing this audiobook, by showing up, by being willing to look at the wound, by having the courage to practice forgiveness before you felt ready. You are already her in embryo. You are already her in beginning. And every day that you practice what we have explored together, every day that you forgive and choose and act and build, you step more fully into that woman's shoes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting this process. Thank you for choosing yourself, your healing, and your abundant financial future. The journey continues, and you are more than ready for what comes next.